Hi there, everybody. Great to see you all. Do come in. So yeah, I'm John Shipley from Harvard Business Review. I'm just going to go quickly through some of the results of a survey we did with our panel of HBR readers and subscribers on knowledge management, AI, digital tools. So, pretty picture of me. So, this is the survey we did. You'll have seen some of these numbers before, but we'll just go into a little more detail on them. So, 97% of the respondents said it's important for organisations to manage their organisational knowledge well, but as you saw this, only 44% agreed that their organisation actually does. 86% said using AI can make managing organisational knowledge easier, but, and here's the key thing David was talking about, only 3%. So that they actually currently use AI for knowledge management. And we'll hear a bit more on the panel about what that 3% are doing. I suspect that probably a lot of you are in that 3% or somewhere around that 3%, but we'll see. Just to go into a little more detail about what we found from the survey. So there's three sides here that are fairly similar with slightly different questions. So this is about creating value. So 96% of the respondents thought it's important that organisations create value from organisational knowledge. I'm not absolutely sure what the 3 and 4% people were doing replying to an HBR survey about knowledge management and didn't think it was important. Anyway, you can see that 55% of those do think that their organisation creates value. And similarly with this one, which is about utilising organisational knowledge, again, 97% of people thought it was important, 51% thought their organisation uses it well. And then this on managing organisational knowledge, again, 97% thought it was important, and we're getting lower, 44% thought that they managed it well. So, why not? And you saw this number before. So 73%. So the overall, the biggest proportion of responses was about fragmentation and siloed sources of knowledge, which is obviously a really big issue. And a lot of these other ones down here kind of flow from that. You can't find the information. Collaboration's difficult, and also leadership as well. That if it's not a priority, it obviously doesn't get done. We also asked people about where the knowledge is located. How can you access it? Split fairly evenly. 52% say that it's not located centrally. Obviously, that's a big problem. But 47% said it was central. But even so, there's still a problem actually using it. Just to kind of dig in a little more, because we on those other slides we're talking about, we're kind of combining moderately successful and very successful. But if you look at, well, who's very successful, how many people actually think that their organisation is very successful, and it's pretty much under 10%. So actually, there's a lot of people doing it okay, but not actually very many doing it very successfully. So what is if you are trying to use one tool, what are the things that you the issues you've got about it? So using one tool, and you heard earlier from people about using lots of different tools makes that very difficult. It's not really well organised. It's hard to find. It's not really well integrated, and the documents aren't very managed, and there's not a lot of training. So fairly similar numbers for that, but that's the kind of thing you'd probably expect. And we asked people about, well, if you're looking for a digital tool, what are the sort of things you're looking for? As you'd expect, it's got to be easy to find. It's got to be well organised. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to be easy to integrate. It's got to be you've got to be able to share and collaborate. There's got to be reporting, and you need something central as well. So similar kind of numbers, but I think it kind of it sort of strikes what you've been hearing about earlier on today as well, about what people need in companies to make knowledge management sharing much more easy. what about AI then? So we've talked about what the problem is, we've talked about digital tools, what about AI? So 88% of the respondents agreed that AI could make creating new content easier, and 87% agreed that using AI can extract more value. So nice big numbers, but of course we're back to the 3% there that are actually using it. And then this slide just then has, well, what are the other people doing? 10% of people just don't know. 16% have considered it, but they're not doing anything. So a chunk of people are piloting. About a quarter are exploring or considering, and 30% are not considering using AI. So you can see the opportunity in that 97%, but people are doing all sorts of different things. So lots of opportunity, but lots of different things going on. So when we asked, of the respondents whose organisations are using AI, what is it, and why are they using it, and what are the outcomes that they want? Echoing what we kind of heard earlier, so 72% of the vast majority is greater speed or efficiency at work, but then also improved customer experience, improved employee experience, better work, more innovation, enhancement of products, and better collaboration as well. But you can see that speed and efficiency is really what people are looking for, and you can imagine also that finance people are looking at that speed and efficiency and saving money as well. So for the organisations that aren't using AI, what are the barriers to using it? Lack of talents, the top one. So it's talent and skills obviously are a big issue. IT infrastructure, big issue as well. Data and privacy concerns, just unclear how AI could be used. And then other priorities as well, because of course, as we all know, everyone's got day jobs, everyone's doing other things, other priorities. So doing something different, doing something new, bringing on a new tool is potentially difficult. So these are just some of the things that having seen the survey that we've looked at, and some recommendations about what companies should be doing. Starting with creating standards for how knowledge is captured. So really being strict about how knowledge is captured and recorded, because that obviously, if it's all over the place, that if it's not centralized, or half companies don't have it centralized, that's very difficult. Understanding of limitations, so appointing a policy champion, someone who can actually champion what you're doing is really important in terms of data accuracy, in terms of actually making sure that what you're collecting is good data. Understanding the business case, and we heard about that earlier as well. What are the benefits that you actually want? Can you do it in-house? Do you need to buy something from outside? Appointing an AI champion is important as well. So actually someone or some group in the company who actually understands about AI, understands the ethical constraints, the ethical considerations, the technical ones as well. And then finally, and I think this is a really important thing, is sharing successes. So actually, let's have actually showcasing and sharing the actual uses of what employers are doing in the company, because actually those. I think it was Mary before was saying, those little things that people are doing actually build out into something much bigger, and actually makes it much easier to kind of roll out what you're doing, and roll out using AI to make better knowledge management. So that's it. That's the presentation. Hope that's useful. I'm going to hand over to Robbie, who's going to talk to the panel about the 3% of people who are actually doing it well.
We've got Ernesto from DBT Labs, and we've got Adnan from Viva. Would you both like to introduce yourselves briefly and a bit about your business?
Sure. Great. Great to be here, and thanks for having me. So I'm a data professional working in DBT Labs. I've been in this space for about 12 years. Prior to that, I actually worked for a consultancy that installed kind of wikis for customers. This is in the mid-2000s, so it's very early technology, and it's great to see it evolve. I know it's kind of a bad word to call Notion a wiki, but it definitely started in that and moved on. So yeah, what I do is I help organizations take their data that's in motion and make sense of it. It's a lot of what Notion does for you. It takes data out of your heads and puts it in a place where others can reach it. So there's definitely a lot of likeness. So yeah, excited to be here and to tell you a little bit about how we use it today. And Adnan?
Of course. I'm one of the co-founders at Viva. We hire, train, and match high-caliber executive assistants with leaders at tech companies. And as a fun fact, we've been using Notion since 2020, the inception of the company. My co-founder's actually been using Notion since 2017, which is back when Ivan was directly reading and responding to support tickets. So it's amazing to see how far along Notion has come since then, and looking forward to what's next as well.
Awesome, we love it, and we're super happy customers with you as well, which is interesting. Before we get started, I always like to ask a little question to anyone who's a power user of Notion. If you were a Notion block, which block would you be and why?
For me, the team that knows me well knows that I'm obsessed with databases. If information's not in a database, it's almost like I can't digest it. So anything that's not in a database has to be converted to database, and that would be my favorite block.
Because he took my favorite block, I will say I would be the AI block. I'm a little bit lazy. I have a lot of ideas, and to be able to collect those into a place where it's written out better for me, I would just use the AI block. So.
How about you, Robbie?
So someone asked me this question recently, and they actually told me what the answer was. So in my role, it's very general. I kind of thread a lot of different departments in Notion. So I'm like a synced block. Kind of take information from here and make it work there and bring it over there as well. So
nice.
Really cool. Okay, we just heard from John a wealth of information and statistics around current trends in knowledge management and AI. Can you share a little bit about how your organizations think about knowledge at the moment? Let me start with you, Ernesto.
Sure. So a little bit about DBT Labs. I joined when it was around 40 people, but it started as 8 people right when the pandemic kicked off, and we're now 500 people. Some of the missions or the values of the company is, one of them is knowledge related, is we contribute to the knowledge loop, meaning like if you find the answer to something, make sure that you don't just keep it in your head, put it somewhere useful. The other one is we optimize for the long term, which is also related to that. So if you find a piece of knowledge, make sure everybody can benefit from it in that sense. I think the context of like 40 people to 500 people, that changes quite a bit. We are a remote first company. We do have office in Dublin where I work and one in Philadelphia, but we don't have offices everywhere. And we don't want to create an environment where those in an office are going to be more successful than others. So there's a lot of reading and writing that happens, and a lot of asynchronous communication. And so Notion has been something that we've had from the very beginning. I will say that in that steep curve from 8 to 500, ran into all sorts of interesting ways that we've had to like deal with how we scale our use of Notion. So I'll tell you a little bit more about some of our use cases with AI, but we did hire folks and appoint champions to expire knowledge, to label every page with an owner and automatically expired if it isn't true anymore. So veracity of data has become a thing that we had to deal with. Adnan?
I'd say prior to Viva, I was in management consulting, and there's a common saying in management consulting, which was, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And based on that, the way we'd find information or knowledge was, I would first ask people, do you know anybody who's delivered a project for this type of company in this market? And then they would say, yeah, I think this person over here knows that and was on something similar. And then I would get on a call with them, and I'd try to get that knowledge, and they'd transmit it to me over a 30-minute call. That model to me is something that doesn't scale long term, and it isn't actually fair to the entire organization because it's stuck in people's minds. So when building Viva, I wanted to look at knowledge very differently and make sure that there were no information asymmetries. And for us, knowledge means being able to search for information easily, being able to actually learn from it, and then being able to share it with others and repeating that process. So that's the way we're doing it at Viva.
Super, super interesting. And I can imagine that becomes more and more challenging as the organization scales. How do you keep on top of that within the business?
Yeah, it would be to make sure that every new hire that comes in understands that and they can actually see knowledge management in action and forget and kind of unlearn what they might have seen in another organization. And that started with myself unlearning what I was used to and making sure that it kind of percolates throughout the organization.
Very, very cool. Something I found fascinating was that the majority of leaders in the research report recognize that the importance of creating value from the organizational knowledge. However, less than half believe that they're doing it effectively at the moment. Maybe starting with you, Adnan, what do you think is causing the significant gap between recognition and implementation there?
I would say knowledge management has been viewed historically as a nice to have. If I look at a job description or a 30, 60, 90-day plan, I often won't see document your processes in there or show how your job is done in there. It's oftentimes doing things, not figuring out how that can be documented. So because it's often viewed as nice to have, a lot of priority and emphasis isn't put on it. And I think that's what really needs to change. It needs to be viewed as something that is part of your role. If you're going to be doing something, try to make sure that that knowledge can be transmitted to others across the organization.
I love it. Makes sense, Ernesto.
Yeah, a few thoughts firing off there. One of them is ties back to what I do at DBT. I see a Monzo jacket there. I see some of my customers around. What successful people do in analytics space is they break down silos of like the databases where data is stored, and they stick it in one place. Monzo, in your case, BigQuery, I suppose. Other organizations might do it in Snowflake. So this idea that you break down silos existed in the analytics space for a while, and I think that's the same thing with knowledge management. So if you want to get started with knowledge management in an old organization, you have to like bust up all the silos and say, look, we're gonna share a place where we put knowledge so that somebody in an organization, in a different part of the organization that has nothing to do with you, will be able to benefit from something that you've learned, that's something that, or the way that you've worked with a customer. That's how we start, I guess. And so one place to do that would be in Notion.
I love it. And following on from that, I think what the stats showed that 80% of respondents in the research agree that using AI for knowledge management can extract even more value for an organization's knowledge sources. Yet only 3% of organizations are currently using AI for this purpose, despite its recognized potential. So you two are part of that pioneering 3%. Can you share some specific examples of how AI capabilities are helping you extract more value from your company's knowledge?
Sure. So I would say that, first of all, I'm optimistic that the remaining 97% will start using AI over time and that 3% will change. For us, there's three main use cases that we see AI come up very often. The first is searching for information. So as an example, previously, I would have to remember, where is the information? Is it in Notion? Is it in Slack? Is it in Gmail? And then I would search all three of those. And it was something that Ivan was talking about earlier. You have the context switching. And while I would be searching, I would actually forget what I was even searching for, and I'd probably like open up an email or something like that, and then I wouldn't even find the information. Now, being able to search in one platform in Notion AI and specifically look into Google and Slack at the same time is very powerful. The second would be structuring information. So like Robbie was asking, my favorite block is databases. Some people really like toggles. I want both, ideally, because then we can actually have information that is catering to everybody and their preference. So if I can take unstructured notes now and then turn them into nice formatted toggle, and then turn that into table, and then click twice and turn that into database, that's all of a sudden very powerful, because I can take unstructured information and turn it into structured information that caters to me and anybody using it. The third use case that I can think of specifically would be being able to create information and knowledge in the first place. So taking notes on a piece of paper, I see someone's actually writing things down right now, so being able to take that and then actually turn that into a Notion page and not have that information live on a piece of paper, but rather be accessible by everybody in the organization. How about you, Ernesto?
Yeah, so a little bit on that. So I'll deep dive a little bit more into my world. So I'm a solutions architect that works with our largest customers like Virgin Media here in the UK. We all think about Customer 360 as like, I mean, every company that you work for, I am sure, has some sort of Customer 360 project that usually is around data. For me, actually, it's the thing that I convince people to start using Notion for when it comes to the go-to-market motion at DVT Labs is when you capture notes when you're talking to a customer, and Virgin Media has been a customer for over 3.5 years at DVT Labs. I think last time I checked, there were 400 different meetings that were had with this customer. If we all take notes in Apple Notes about Virgin Media, we'll never be able to do anything useful with it. So we created something called Customer Cliff Notes, which is our kind of like customer 360 for information about them at rest. And anyway, what that allows me to do is I keep all my notes, and so does the other people working on the accounts there. If I'm going to have a meeting with an executive, I can say, like, give me the 5 projects that Virgin Media is worried about right now with data. And it will go through Slack, of course, which I think is a good place to get a little pulse, but it'll also read all 400 of these notes and go okay, well, actually in 2022, when we spoke to the CEO, they said this, and then we spoke to this other person. It creates these links that people normally wouldn't be able to do because it's very longitudinal, very multi-threaded. And so yeah, that's the use case that people go, I get it. I get why you should centralize notes in one place so that then we can do something more useful with it. So yeah, that's how it helps us win more deals and that sort of thing.
It's really, really helpful insights. And I think we've time for just one more question. So let me say that, at Notion, we believe the future will be won by companies who create value from their knowledge. We believe that passionately. Looking ahead, what do you believe will be the most transformative impact of combining AI with organizational knowledge in the coming years? Maybe start with you, Ernesto.
Sure. So that's not new, by the way. If you read the HBR article from 1991, the knowledge generating company, I had to do a study about that or a paper in college about it. But anyway, it says organizations, if the future will be able to only win by the data that they take in and the data that they take out and how they organize it in the middle. So it's good to see it continuing. But anyway, in the future, because I've been working in analytics forever, and now getting more into AI and analytics, that's kind of data in motion. So let's go back to the customer 360. Customer 360 is well, how much are they using my tool and what are they buying and blah, 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 blah. And then in Notion, I have all of my qualitative information. It's about kind of when those things get married together, and I can ask Notion AI a question around my data. So any product managers back there, if you can take my feature request and build that out for me, that would be lovely.
How about you, Adnan? What do you see coming down the track?
I would say I was reflecting on something Ivan said earlier about how it's all about the people. And to me, people are the most important component of a company or organization. And when I think about how AI can transform that specifically, it's about being able to onboard people really fast. Recently, a few months ago, I was trying to figure out how to onboard a new people leader we hired. And I was thinking, how do I get 4 years of context into her mind and make sure that she's able to get up to speed really quickly on all the things that we're working on today and have worked on in the past. Being able to actually have that knowledge in an easy way to manage in one location is something that really transforms that. So I'm looking forward to seeing people be able to onboard faster at companies, kind of jump onto that moving train at a faster rate and be able to keep up with the pace of fast-moving companies.
Wonderful stuff. We've got a bright future ahead, I think. Adnan, Ernesto, thank you so much for your insights. Thanks for being awesome Notion customers as well.